Students, today's topic is one of the most important topic in English, that is passive voice. So there's a lot of importance of having passive voice in our writing structures. So here we go. What is the actual form of the passive structure and how it is different from the other types of structure? When we write something, so we use different structures based on different types of sentences, different type of forms, different type of tenses, and different structures of the sentences. But now the passive is another type of structure we often use in our writing and even in speaking also. So, what is the form? The passive one of an active tense is formed by putting the verb to be into the same tense as the active verb and adding the past participle of the active verb. Means when we are making the passive sentence, so the form of the sentence should remain same. If the active is in the present, so it must be represented in any way in the same tense, means the simple present. If the sentence in the active sentence in future, so the passive would definitely be used in that way that it must reflect some action in the future sentence or future time. The subject of the active verb becomes the agent of the passive. What we do in passive, we change the form of the subject into object and object into the subject. But then when the subject is changed into object, it no more called as an object. It would be called as an agent. The agent is very often not mentioned. When it is mentioned, it is preceded by and placed at the end of the clause. Means whenever we are making the sentence, the active sentence into passive, we always, if we are using the agent after the verb, so it must be reflected by the word by. But it is not a necessity. What is student and what people think that the passive voice must always contain a by phrase to show the agent or to show the subject of the sentence. But this is not the case, because in 90% situation, or you can say that 80 to 90% situation, we always use the passive sentence without that subject, without the by phrase. The example is given here that this tree, not free, this tree was planted by my grandfather. So what does it mean that the tree was planted? It would be like this, that the tree was planted. Now what by my grandfather is obviously the doer of the action, and but if we removed it, the sentence remain same, or you can say that the sentence remain clear. Here we go about different examples of passive structure which we do in present, past, and perfect passive sentences. Now, one is the example of the simple present. We keep the butter here. Now, the butter is kept here. Now, there is no agent here, no subject is mentioned, but the message of the sentence is clearly described. Another sentence is in the past sentence, in the past tense, they broke the window. Now the window was broken. And it would be like that the window was broken by them. But it is not a necessity to include by them here. People have seen wolves in the streets. Now, the wolves have been seen in the streets by the people. Now, we are not using by the people because, sometimes it is not the necessity to use, the agent or the subject. Now, why do we use specific structure? In writing, there must be some reason in what context, in what manner, and what is the necessity, what is the purpose behind using passive structures in our writing. So here we are focusing on the usages of passive structure. Now, the number one is when it is not necessary to mention the doer of the action, as it is obvious who is or who was or who will be in doing the action. So the rubbish hasn't been collected. then the rubbish hasn't been collected, and it is not necessary to use the rubbish hasn't been collected by the sweeper or by the person by that person or by xyz, any person else. So it is not necessary to mention the door, because it is sometimes understood or so obvious to not mention. Okay, now when we don't know or don't know exactly or have forgotten who did the action, so the minister was murdered, we don't know who did that murder. So, and the robbery was committed, so the robbery was committed, we don't know who committed the robbery. So there's no need, obviously no need, you can say that there's an unknown doer of the action, so we are not supposed to mention it, and we are bound to use the passive structure here. If we want to use the active structure here, we cannot use the active structure, because active structure always require a subject, and we don't know the subject who is the doer of the action. Okay, now another usage of passive sentence is when the subject of the active verb would be people, means common people are doing this. So he is suspected of receiving a stolen good. So who suspected? Obviously people, means most of the people. It's a general thought. So when we are focusing on the general perception, general thought, so we use passive structure. When the subject of the active sentence would be the indefinite pronoun one, means indefinite, anyone, each of you, everybody, anybody. So these are the indefinite pronouns. This sort of advertisement is seen everywhere. So obviously everywhere means every person would be seeing it, so there is no need to mention everyone. So when we are making such kind of sentences, we try to use and we prefer using passive sentences. When we are more interested in the action than the person who does it, means our main focus is on the action, not on the person who actually does it. So the house next door has been bought, and we don't know who actually has bought it, or who we don't want to focus on that person, and our main focus is not on the person who has bought it. So we can rather, or we should say it in this way, that the house next door has been bought by Mr. Jones or Miss Elena or so and so person. So this is not the main purpose of our sentence. Let's suppose we often use that the result has been announced. So we don't use that the result has been announced by University of Karachi or by Board of Intermediate or Board of Secondary Education. Instead, we say that the result has been announced, because it is because our main focus is on the action rather than the doer of the action. Okay, the passive may be used to avoid an awkward or ungrammatical sentence. When we arrived home, a detective arrested him would be better expressed that when he arrived home, he was arrested. Because, we don't want to use, this kind of a structure, that one is passive and the other is, when he arrived home, a detective arrested. No, when he was arrived, he was arrested. When he arrived home, he was arrested. Or not, there's no necessity to use by a detective, because it would definitely confuse, making the confuse in structure or ungrammatical sentence, and it could lead to the grammatical errors. Okay, now there are different ways to make passive. One of the basic way of making passive structure is to change the active sentence, the sentence form, into the passive form. Likewise, if the sentence is is in simple present, so we use is or along with the third form of verb, or you can say that past participle. So this is what we know already, means how to make the specific structure on the active sentences. But here we are more focused on, or we are more give attention towards the different ways of active sentences, and how to make the passive sentences of those. So here we have different structures using in English language. So the passive or continuous sentences tenses means if the tenses are in continuation, shows the continuous form of any tense or any time, means present continuous or the past continuous, requires the continuous form of be. Continuous form of be means is, am, are, being, was, were, being, will be, being, right? So which are not otherwise much used, means there is no other case in which is being is used, or are being is used, or will be being is used. So only in only passive structure we use is being, am being, are being, was being, were being, will be being in passive structure. So if first sentence, you look towards the first sentence, they are repairing the bridge. So the bridge is being repaired. Now repaired. Now is being is the be form of the continuous, right? And repaired is the third form of verb which is always used in passive form. Means the main form of the verb will always be in past participle. You should keep in your mind that whenever we are making the passive form of any sentence, we always use the third form of the verb, the main verb. Okay, now the other one is they were carrying the injured player off the field. Now the injured player was being. Now the was being was because the, the player is only one. Now we are not using were, because they were in active sentence, and was is joined with player. So if it would be like the injured players, it would be like were. Now here only we are talking about only one player, the singular subject, so we use singular subject, a verb. Was being carried off is the third form of verb carry of the field. Now, other continuous sentences, other continuous tenses having present perfect continuous or the past perfect continuous are exceedingly rarely used in the passive. Means we don't use them in the passive structure. So that sentences such as like they have been repairing the road or they will be repairing the road are normally not put in or are not normally put into the passive. Similarly, they had been repairing the road and they would be repairing the road are not normally put into the passive, are not normally used in the passive. So we don't change these sentences into passive. What sentences? Present perfect continuous and the past perfect continuous. Okay, now the auxiliary plus infinitive objectives. Now what is the meaning of the infinitive? Let me clear you about the infinitive combination. Infinitive means first form of the verb, means the bare form of the verb without any other inflection and inflection in the form, means the basic form of the verb. So auxiliary plus infinitive combination are made passive by using a passive infinitive. What is the passive infinitive? Be and the past participle, be and the third form of the verb, right? So whenever we are using modal auxiliary with the first form of the verb, like he can do this or he must do this, he should do this. So how we can change this the form of the active sentence into passive? By using a passive infinitive, means be plus third form of the verb. You should shut these door, so or you must shut these doors, so these door must be shut or should be shut. Must, according to the active sentence, must remain must, and should would be changed into be past participle, third form of the verb. Now they should have told him. Now this is the perfect infinitive active, so we need to change it like they should have told him, they should have been told him, because have is a perfect, so we need to change the be form into third form of them being told. Similarly, they ought to have told him, so he ought to have been told, right? All right. Other infinitive combinations, verb of liking. Infinitive combination means when we are using it the sentences or these words in the simple present form, means bare form of the verbs or the simple form of the verbs. Verbs of liking, loving, wanting, wishing, etc. plus object plus infinitive form with passive with the passive structure. Let's suppose he wants someone to take photographs. Now, verbs of liking, wants. Now, object, someone. Infinitive, to form of the verb, means bare form of the verb. To take photographs. So, let's suppose it would be like that. He likes me to he likes me to send some food, or love uh he loves everyone to be kind, now the be is also the bare form of the word, infinitive form of the word. Now how we make the passive structure of such type of sentences? So we use with the passive infinitive, be taken. Now be and third form of the verb. He wants would remain same. Photographs would be the the object. He wants photographs to be taken. He wants food to be delivered. He wants he wants you can say that favor to be held, or he wants collaboration to be kind, or to be anything else, like any kind of verb would be used here. So with verbs of command, request, advice, invitation, these kinds of things means if we having the verbs of command, request, we use such kind of verbs in which the speaker wants to command someone, or request someone, or advise someone, or invite someone, plus indirect object, and then the infinitive, means to infinitive. We form the passive by using the passive form of the main verb, means whatever the main form is, we need to change into third form of the verb or the passive form of the verb, means along with the helping verb, which denotes that which tense is used. Likewise, he invited me to go. Invited means obviously he is giving some invitation. It would be like that. He advised me to speak slowly, right? He requested me to go along with me. He he commanded me, he commanded the children to to be quiet, right? So these kind of sentences. So two, the forms after two remain same, but the other form, the initial sentence would change into the passive form. Like he invited me. Now invited is the past form of the sentence, tense, or the verb. So we are changing it, assuming that it is the past tense. So we have changed the sentence into passive structure. I was invited to go, right? Okay. Now the sentences, which are but with the advice, back, order, recommend, urge, or plus indirect object plus infinitive. Likewise, to reduce the rates, it's infinitive, and the object is the rates. Now we are focusing on if the sentence would having would have advise, back, order, recommend, urge, these types of words. If these types of words would be there, so the passive structure would be made in two ways. By making the main verb passive, कि जो मेन वर्ब है जो हमारा इस्तेमाल हुआ है, that is urge है, recommend है, order, back, advice. So we have to change the verb, this verb, the main verb, into passive. And we can also use by having by advice, like that should be done, this, that must be done in that way. So we can also use this kind of structures. Let's suppose the example is given here. He urged the council to reduce the rates. Now he urged, it would be like he backed, he advised, he recommended, or he ordered. So in these types of sentences, how we can change the sentences in two ways. First of all is to make the main form of the verb into passive structure, and to infinitive would remain same. And the other one is that we can also use what kind of quality of the sentence was, means whether he was urging, he was or the person was begging, or he was ordering, or he was advising. So we can use that he urged, he advised, he, he begged, that rates should be reduced. Now to reduce the shade would remain, would change with that. Now two has taken the place, the that has taken the place of the two, and the rate should be reduced is the passive form of that sentence. All right. Okay. Now agree if the sentence do have this kind of tone in it, that he is agreeing, or he is getting anxious, or he wants to arrange, be determined, determine, decide, demand, plus infinitive, means the bare form of the verb. He decide to have, or to do, to collect, these kind of, and plus object are usually expressed in the say passive by that, should, or as a. Let's suppose he decided to sell the house. He decided that the house should be sold. Now this is the example we can use. Now lie is they mistakenly mentioned here. It would be like he decided that the house should be sold. Okay, now the gerund combination. Gerund, what is the gerund? Gerund is the ing form of the verbs which are not used as the verb but which are used as the noun. Advise, insist, purpose, recommend, suggest plus gerund plus object are usually expressed in the passive by that or that should. He recommended using bulletproof class. Now he recommended using. Now using. Let's suppose he advised would be there, he insisted would be there, he proposed would be there, he recommended would be there. Plus gerund means ing form. Okay? Any kind of ing form along with the any verb which is formed, which formed a noun instead of a verb, which act as a noun in a sentence, plus object. Like let's suppose the object is bulletproof glass. Now how do we change it? He recommended that bulletproof glass should be used. Now using the gerund would be omitted in the sentence, and the sentence, the other sentence, glass should be should be used. So recommended has changed into recommended, remains the same. Now the other using bulletproof glass, so because he was recommended, so he must prefer it, should be, we used it by, we tell it, we try to show the intention of the speaker or the doer through should be. The bullet glass should be used because it is more like recommendation. When a verb plus preposition and object combination is put into passive, the preposition will remain immediately after the verb. Let's suppose we must write to him. So he must be written to. If the preposition is there after the object, a verb, right? Verb is there and then the preposition is there. So how should we form it? Preposition remains at the end of the or after the verb. It remains. Like you can play with these curves quite safely. So these curves with. Now these curves can be played with. Now with quite safely because the adverb is here, so we can use how, right? Okay. Now infinitive construction after passive verb, we often use these kinds of sentences. So whenever we are using in the writing that it is suggested, it is considered, it is observed, it is thought, it is known, it is considered, these types of structures are often used in our writing. So when we are using this, so after the passive verb like thought, known, considered, or observed, we use that. And then you can add the active structure or the passive, depends on you. He is considered on known to be, he is considered to be a protector of the country. Is considered as the product protector of the country could also be right. People believe that he was, now he was anything else. He was a thief. People believe that he was a thief. Now people believed is the passive, and now the he was a thief is this active structure. So we can use these kind of structures also. Now it was believed. Now who believed it? Obviously, people would definitely believe it. It was believed that he was a suspect. Okay. Now, WH questions. There are different kinds of questions we use in the sentences. So how we make these kinds of structures. The question words when, why, where, how, or what does not change their position at the beginning of the sentence. Means if the sentence is in the when, why, where, how, what, it starts with these words, so the passive structure is also start with the same word when the active form is changed into passive. But when we talk about who and whom, so the who changes to by whom and whom into who. Now here are some examples. The active is when will they announce the result? Announce when will they announce the result? So when is the form of the is one of the WH word which does not change its position when we form passive sentence. So when it remains at the beginning, when will now be announced. Be announced, announce, now the be form of the passive. The result be announced. Now there is no necessity to use by them. It is up to the speaker, up to the writer whether he wants to add it or not. Who wrote this book? Now who is, change the form in the passive. Now it becomes by whom was this book written. Now wrote is in the past form. It is showing that it is the simple past tense. So when we change the form of wrote into the passive structure, we use was written. So was written would be adjusted in passive structure according to the passive structures. Like by whom this book was written hota, if it would be like this, so the sentence become wrong. We have to form the sentence in a way that after the wh word we always use the helping word, and then the object and yes, the object and then the word. Now when did he say what was said by him? What was said, it could be like this, but we are specifying about a person by saying he, so we should use him in passive voice here. Whom did you invite? So he was invited by you. Who was invited by you? Let's suppose was invited was is the passive form of invite. Was invite, because invite shows that it is in the past because did is here. So it would be termed as invited. So invited would be changed as was invited in passive form. Now question with auxiliary verbs. Let's suppose if we have the questions in passive structure by, are you crazy? Are you mad? Or are you going to have some fun? Are you attending the party? Or do these kinds of, or do sentences like, do we have to talk about this? And did she ask me about the person? So these are the question with auxiliary verbs. The primary auxiliary verbs do, does, or did does not appear in the passive form. Means we omit it in the passive form, because when we are making the passive structure of any sentence in the past or even in the present, what we do, we already have a helping verb in passive, because the main form changes its form into the third form. So we take the help with the helping verb to make it the question, make the question sentences. Let's suppose, did she recognize you? If we are using it in the simple sentence, let's suppose in the simple past tense, it would be like, she recognized you. Instead of the question, it would be like this. So she recognized you does not have any helping verb. But when we make the passive structure of she recognized you would be like you were recognized by her. So here were is the helping form. So similarly, when we are making the question sentences of the past sentence or the present, we already have the helping verb in passive structure. So we take the help of those passive structures to make the question sentences of these sentences, right? Like, let's suppose, did she recognize you? So we already got the helping verb here, were. Were you recognized by her? Similarly, do you really need a favor? So we change it as we assume that the sentence is in the simple present tense. So we need to change it in the in the passive sentence by making third form of need as needed. And because it is simple present tense, so we take the help of is. Now, is the flavor really needed? Okay. Now the verbs has, have, had, will, shall, can, may do not change their possession. Why? Because they are the helping verb. We don't use and we don't require any other helping verb to change the form of the sentence or to change it in the passive sentences at the beginning of the sentence when the active voice is changed into passive because we already have the helping verbs here. Have you invited them? So have they been invited by you? Will you help me? Will he be helped by you? So these are the helping verbs which are already used in the sentence, right? Okay. Now, what are different ways in which we use, we change the form of the sentences? There are different multiple ways we use. Let's suppose simple present tense. When we talk about simple present tense, if the sentence is like keeps, if the sentence do have the form like keep, obviously in simple present tense, if the sentence like he keeps the secret, so the secret or the secrets the secrets are kept by him or the secret is kept by him, depends on the form of the object, right? Now if the sentence is in continuous, like he is keeping the secret, so the secret is being kept by that person. Okay, now is keeping. I have told you that whenever we are using the continuous form of such kind of sentences, what we do is being. Now, is being is the continuous form of be, right? Be की continuous form है is लगा हुआ है, being लगा हुआ है, and along with the past participle of the main form, right? Now the simple past, how do we do it? Kept. Now the kept remains kept because this is, here we are using the second form, and now in the passive structure we always use the third form, but to show that the sentence in the past, so we use was kept. Similarly, the secret was kept if the sentence would the secrets were kept, right? Now the past continuous. He was keeping the secrets. So the secrets were being kept by him or the secret was being kept by him. Now the past form of the continuous was being, now the third form, and another one is the third form or the past participle of main form. All right. Now the present perfect have kept. Now whenever we are using whenever we are using changing the present perfect tense into passive structure, which we always take the example of another third form, which shows that the sentence is in the passive sentence. So or the passive structure. So we always take the help of be, and be's third form is been. Have kept, have been kept. So he has kept the secret. So the secrets have been kept by him or the secret has been kept by him. Past perfect had kept. So had been kept. This is how we change the past perfect into the passive structure. Future will keep, will be kept. He will keep the secret. The secret, the secret would be kept, or sorry, will be kept. Similarly, will be kept, it could be as that if the sentence would be having the plural form of the object, the secrets remains will, because there is no other form of will here in the future. So the secret, whether the sentence do have the secrets, the plural form of the object, or the singular form of the will remain will. Okay, the conditional present. Let's suppose if we have the sentence having she would keep, so would be kept. And the conditional of the past, would have kept. So would have means perfect. So we always used to show we always used been in the passive structure of perfect sentences. So would have been kept. Present indefinite. Whenever we are changing the present indefinite, like she asked to keep, so to be kept. And perfect infinitive, to have kept. Now whenever the have is there, we always use been, to have been kept. Gerund, if the gerund is there, like keeping, so it would be like being kept. It can also be linked with the above form, like keeping, was keeping, being kept. Being kept remains same because it changes position of keeping. Okay, having kept, having been kept, because have is there, so we always use been, third form of be. Here we end. So this is how we can change the different forms of the passive structure. When you making the passive sentences of any sentence, any active sentence, do take care of these things when while composing something. And you need to take care of such kind of sentences which cannot be, well, which cannot take the form of passive structure, or you can say that which cannot become the passive structure. So if somebody asks you, or if something comes in the exam to change the sentences like a present perfect continuous, and the teacher asks you to change the passive, to change it into the passive structure, so it remains unchanged. You cannot change it because there is not they that do not often end up like this. Okay, so here we end.